guys, it's Ugo and welcome back to another video. Today is the Bookish Advent Calendar Day number 14, and for this day I decided to bring a review for Godkiller by Anna Kanner. This was released early this year and the sequel is already coming out. At least the Illumicrate already did the pre-sale and I got the second one because I really enjoyed the first one. As you can see, it's not a big book and this is the Illumicrate edition, so it's just gorgeous, like super shiny. I love this artwork, like it's super cool. Now, why should you read this book? The story of Godkiller is set in this fantasy world where gods are hunted. So there, in the past, the gods were venerated and they could give you blessings. Could be, imagine Greek mythology. They could be vengeful, but people live with that. But the kings, this time the queen and their family start dying, so they start to put a war against the gods, and now the gods are being hunted. So there are very few gods who are alive or with strength, because the gods reborn. You can never kill a god. You can destroy their shrines and they come back weaker, so they have to earn again because the power of the gods come from the prayers and came from the people who want them and the love and the importance the people give them. So we have here 4 main points in this book. We have start with Kissen, and the first chapter is Kissen's backstory, so we understand her position from that, and a little bit of this world. So, and the book is set in the future, like 10-15 years later. So Kissen is now a god killer, and her assignment is basically being hired for villages and towns to kill gods that are wild or hurting people and things like that. We have then Elo, which was a knight on the war with the gods, and it's one of the best friends of the king and is on the mission to save the king. We have Inara, who has a different ability, and she's connected to a god, scribd. So we had to put point of views of the god and the child, or the teenager. And the story will involve all these 4. So the book is very small, like I told you. And you can say like, whoa, it has 4 POVs, it has like, it looks like a ton of missions for each of one, because each of one has a mission to accomplish. So how could it be like explored in such a short book? It has like less than 300 pages and the font is not that small, you know, it's not that small or that big, but I thought it was really well done. So the pace is, I say, appropriate. Like in the beginning, you get the introduction of the characters, of the mindsets of the missions, and a little bit of how they will interact with each other, a little bit of the backstories and the compelling to proceed these missions. And then we start going to the action. And what I felt about this book is that it's very adult, it's very strong in action, and not afraid to shock, like killing people and killing gods, being violent, and it's very action-packed, you know. From pages to pages we start getting action, and I think that's why the book worked for me. It's because you get a lot of action and will compel you to move forward. So you have, I believe in the first chapters you get already an action scene, and then more or less in the middle you start getting more and more action scenes. So there's definitely a dip when the introduction of the characters and their mission starts, and then it starts to pick up the pace. And I thought it was very compelling because we knew, due to the POVs, all the missions they had to accomplish, but they didn't know. So the missions were a little bit like secrecy between these 4 characters, and we start doubting and starting to question who is in the right side, especially with Kissen and Elo and scribd, the god. I start questioning myself, is he good, is he bad, he's gonna like twist this, and then a lot of things happen. The book is very heavy on the story. There are still some explanations that we don't get in this book. You left with some unanswers, some unanswered questions. For example, especially with Inara, with the Inara character, but the rest of them you start to see some closure. You start to seeing some knots on their stories, and how I think that why it was so compelling was that the story, the pace is so fast, but it's so well written and so elegant that will captivate you, and then you have a lot of action, and you can we don't have a lot of lore per se, you know, the world building is not that big. You get the idea of the gods, of the wars, how it was the war, how it was before the war, how these people still live when the king forbids reverence to these gods. So we understand that, but it's not so explored like a high super deep fantasy with 500 or 600 pages, but I think it's enough because you get the sentiment. You don't need a backstory for each god, you get to the most important and to the characters that will play a role, and you understand a little bit of the magic that the system, this world has. It's not a very closed magic system, it's more of a curses, prayers, God's favor, God's power, so it's a little bit of on the godly side, so everything can happen. Gods can grant you wishes, can grant you power, fortune, a little bit of everything. Now, what I say is, it's not explored. Yes, it's not definitely explored to the point that we know specifically what each god could do, but we know that older god has more power than newer gods, and with bigger gods with bigger shrine has more power. So we understand that dynamics, but it's not totally explored. I think the book ended in a place for the sequel, and now it's open, and I think it's a very good end because it closes a chapter on one of the main characters, at least one of her chapters, because I believe she's more, there are very dynamics between them, but I think the main closure that you understand from the first beginning of the book, it's closed, and then we move to the other characters that we still have and we are still dealing with, because the plot twists you get to the end, it's definitely a place where I was not expecting what is gonna happen. When I was reading it, I never expected the way this would turn out to be. I always thought it will be like a closer conclusion of some stories, but not. The conclusion of the book I expected, because I think it could be very satisfying to people to see and to read that, but I don't think the others I was expecting, especially the main twist, I was like, no. And this shift all the story and shift all the what is gonna happen next, and there are still some revelations that we are still waiting, so I'm very excited for the second one, and I really recommend The Godkiller by Hannah Kenner. Like I said in some videos, I never have high expectations. Or that's not true. I always on the think side of hype books or books, because sometimes the choices are not the best, but I was like, the sequel coming out, let's read it, so to see if I like the sequel. I know a lot of people liked it and it's very well coded, and it wasn't that very big, and that was my biggest problem. I was like, it's not very big, so how could it deliver that much on a fantasy book when it's not that big? But I think the point was concise. He was concise on telling the story when it was important, explaining the things and the world when it was needed, and in a way that was a little bit simplistic. But when I say simplistic, not the way but it's just not 2 pages long of explanation. It's like, it's this, and you get it and you move on. So it's my recommendation. If you want to get for Christmas, you still got time. So it's Godkiller by Hannah Kenner. So yeah, I hope you guys like it, and I hope if you read it, tell me in the comments if you like it or not, why. I would love to discuss this with you, and yeah, this is my recommendation for you. And if you reach this far, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because it's very important for the channel, it's very important, and I like this engagement with people, so if you please do. If you don't want, just leave an emoji or something like that. I post videos at least 3 times a week is the plan for next month, after this big idea, or this big idea because it's not a big idea, but this craziness of this advent calendar of 24 videos for 24 days. So yeah, after that I will return to my normal schedule. I have reading sprints on Fridays, and now during this time I will try to do more when I at home, like if I'm in the mood, or I will just pop up and do some sprints, because I think it helped me a lot to read. I also have my book clubs down below if you want to join. The quarterly pick is already up. I will link up here and down below if you want to check the short, because I think I'm very excited for that book, and I hope you are excited too. And yeah, I hope you guys like it, and I see you guys on my next video, okay? Bye!